Moments ago, as we continue to get good, positive updates on the health of Damar Hamlin, we've also been wondering what's going to happen with that Week 17 Monday night matchup. The NFL releasing the following statement, Roger Goodell actually addressing that this game will not be played. This has been a very difficult week. We continue to focus on the recovery of Damar Hamlin and are encouraged by the improvements in his condition, as well as the tremendous outpouring of support and care for Damar and his family across the country. We are also incredibly appreciative of the amazing work of the medical personnel and commend each and every one of them. For a little bit more context on what this all means, Ian Rappaport is with us now. Ian, take me through some of the factors and how we got here.
Yeah, first of all, I would buckle up because the lengthy release we just received from the NFL, the explanation we just got from league sources I was on the phone with just a couple minutes ago, it is a lot. It involves several factors, including why the Cincinnati Bills game was canceled. And obviously, it is not going to be a tie. It is essentially going to be a no contest. Among the factors, canceling this game essentially did not happen rather than a tie. Did not affect anyone who was going to be in the playoffs. These 7 seeds are going to be decided regardless of the outcome of this game. That is important. Had they decided to play the game, it would have required postponing the start of the playoffs for a week, meaning it would affect all 14 clubs that qualified for the postseason, not something that the league wanted to do. Obviously, they would have shrunk down the bye week between the Super Bowl and the title games. That was not going to happen. And then this also makes sure that the decision comes before Week 18. This was really important just for competitive balance reasons, to make sure that every team knows all the ramifications going into Week 18. And I can tell you there were some anxious teams really not knowing what was at stake. Those are all the factors that went into it. As far as everything else, there is also a lot. And I would just say the main thing that you need to think about, the main thing that is affected by these changes, that there could actually be, based on the outcomes of Week 18, based on depending on which team wins, there could actually be a neutral site AFC title game. It depends on multiple factors, but there could actually be a neutral site AFC title game.
Well, Ian, I'm glad you bring that up. Let's go through some of those factors now. The AFC Championship game will be played at a neutral site if the participating teams played an unequal number of games and both could have been the #1 seed and hosted the game had all AFC clubs played a full 17-game regular season. Those circumstances involve clearly Buffalo or Cincinnati qualifying for that game as a road team, and they are listed here as we take you through this. Scenario 1, Buffalo and Kansas City both win or tie. A Buffalo versus Kansas City championship game would be played then on a neutral site. When I say they both tie, I'm talking about Week 18, the matchups coming up. Scenario number 2, Buffalo and Kansas City both lose and Baltimore wins or ties. A Buffalo-Kansas City championship game would then be at a neutral site. And then there's scenario number 3, Buffalo and Kansas City both lose and Cincinnati wins. A Buffalo or Cincinnati against Kansas City championship game would also be played on a neutral site. Ian, that begs the question about what happens with Cincinnati and Baltimore. As you made reference to, there is still a lot to unpack here.
Well, I want to get to one more thing as far as the scenarios you just mentioned. So as I understand it, and I think I understand it, although I would recommend going after this, going to NFL.com and reading all about it just to make sure everyone is 100% sure. If there is a different result for Buffalo and Kansas City, then it is essentially what it is, and those teams can host. For instance, if Buffalo loses, Kansas City wins, the Chiefs would host the AFC title game. So that is an important factor, right? So as you mentioned the coin toss. So if the Bengals and Ravens play, here it is. If the Baltimore Ravens defeat Cincinnati in Week 18, it will mean that the team that is not the AFC North champion has won twice. That would be the Baltimore Ravens. That did not jibe with where the home field advantage would be. Theoretically, the Bengals would be the champions, but will have been beaten twice by the Ravens. So therefore, it will be a coin toss to decide. And if you think about it, we do coin tosses for a lot of things. We do coin tosses for overtime. We do coin tosses for draft picks. We do, I think that's it. No, to start the game, we also
Start
do
the
a
game,
coin
yeah.
toss, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could have maybe one of the most highly publicized coin tosses in the history of the world, and I will probably be watching. Maybe here, actually.
One other note here, just from a Cincinnati perspective, they've already clinched the North. So that's already also been decided here,
Yes.
Ian, as we go through some of these scenarios. I also think it's important to note, Roger Goodell in that statement, Ian, and you know this because you were on the conference call, there's no easy way to do this. They're trying to find the most equitable way to make these decisions here.
Yeah, and there's some teams that are not happy. I know the Bengals aren't thrilled, and and I get it, and the NFL gets it. We went through 2 years of COVID where everything was. They try to make everything equitable as possible, but people knew sometimes it was not going to be 100% fair. The NFL has had meetings endlessly today, did the absolute best they can, and the owners will decide tomorrow on a owners meeting if this is all approved.
Yeah, and once again, as Ian made reference to, a lot to unpack. Full details on NFL.com.